Imagine that time in history, and it probably is still true, where people had to lie about themselves because their authentic self wasn't accepted. I mean, just imagine how much effort that must have taken to go and do good work every day and hide yourself.
The question is from Thinking Focus.
Hi, I'm Rob.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And today the question is, what is impression management and why do we do it? Because I've heard about this stuff, impression management. What is it?
It's manage your impression to other people.
Oh, okay. So trying to control my image, of how other people perceive me.
Sometimes we call it self-presentation.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
it's basically how much effort am I putting into managing the way other people perceive me?
Right. Okay.
And how authentic am I in that?
Yeah, because that feels really false.
Yeah.
Or could be.
Yeah, because, if you go, there's an authentic me,
right,
true self,
mm-hmm.
Every time I'm not being that, that's effort and energy.
Right.
And there's a point where you go, I'm spending so much effort and energy trying to create the impression and manage thing around me that I'm not taking that effort and energy and putting it into the stuff we're actually trying to do or the work or the...
Wow. So do you know what's just happened? A flood of names has entered my head just from that description of going, yep, they were doing that then, in my view. Yeah, she was acting like that because they didn't appear authentic.
Yes. And we, to a certain extent, we all do it.
Right.
We meet a new boss. We meet a new client. We meet a new client. We're not going to sit down in, our scruffy old shorts and T-shirts
and just shoot the breeze
today and shoot the breeze. We've dressed up and we've put a suit on and we're trying to,
trying to create a good impression.
And put our expertise out there and get them to like us.
Right.
And so I guess the question really here for me is, why do we do it? Well, because we want to be liked and we want people to like us. But also we've got perceptions about our self-image. We've got bits of us that maybe we don't like that we're trying to hide from other people.
There's a social perception there as well, isn't there, around conformity?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, so, fitting in.
Yeah, how do I fit? What am I supposed to act like? What am I supposed to look like?
Yeah.
Who am I supposed to be in this environment?
Right.
And then there's sort of the other side of it, and how far is that from me?
Okay.
And how much effort and
energy. That's really interesting,
energy
your description.
is that going to take?
Because it's like, again, my head goes to, it's not a good idea to lie. Take the morality out of it, because there's so much effort required to keep that lie going. It's just going to get found out because it's really, really difficult to construct a story that's a false story.
And so imagine lying about yourself. Imagine going in and lying about your confidence or lying about your skill set.
Yeah.
Or lying about your experience or your background. I mean, I think for me, it's where you get to, some of the diversity arguments. Imagine that time in history, and it probably is still true, where people had to lie about themselves because their authentic self wasn't accepted.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, just imagine how much effort that must have taken to go and do good work every day and hide yourself.
Yeah, you're living a lie. Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that must have felt like for people.
Right.
How hard must that be?
Yeah.
And so that's what we mean by impression management. And I guess the bit that's really interesting from the work we do is the bit where that becomes an issue.
Right.
So where somebody is trying to create a false narrative or a false impression about themselves, or is so focused on how other people perceive them that they're either over-engineering it or probably falling over themselves in a desperate attempt to do it.
I would imagine then, and again, this flood of names and sort of previous experiences.
Let's not name anybody to protect the guilty.
I won't. But let's imagine then, for me, and I'll test this out with you, I would imagine that some people who are very sort of wedded to that overall impression and giving a good impression leave jobs quite quickly because there's a danger of being found out. Because do you know what I mean? If they're actually not being their true self, being their authentic self in a job, and they can carry it on for a certain amount of time, but then move.
I think there are some. I mean, I think of people who who I think would fit exactly into that category. Again, like you, flood of names in the head.
Yeah.
Where they kind of flip from thing to thing.
Right.
Because they're really good at the impression management. They're really good at creating the image.
Yes.
But eventually they find it too hard to maintain it.
Right.
And so they just go somewhere else and do it again and do it again and do it again.
Yeah.
But I think on the other side, there are some people who actually just find a pattern that have created an image and they've created a perception.
Right.
And then what you see is they're not going anywhere. They're fighting, literally fighting,
right,
to maintain the image that they've created, this perception.
Okay.
And I think, again, you go, because image management is kind of, I'm trying to think of the word here. It's gone from my head. It's sort of socially constructed. It's constructed by the environment we're in.
Right.
It's context dependent.
Right.
I might create an image of me at work, which isn't an image of me with my friends, which isn't the image of me with my family.
Right. And
now, if those images are really far apart, I've got 3 parts of my life that I do not want to connect.
Okay.
Because I don't want my work people to meet my family. Oh, this is not me, by the way, but maybe it is. But I don't want my work to connect with my family because they might find a side of me that I don't want to project in that.
Well, that's going to lead to high levels of anxiety.
Yeah.
High levels of stress.
Why do you think I shake? No. Yeah, I think. Even in the workplace, you go. Just think of somebody for a second, right? Who's in a team. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of a real person, so I can use an analogy, but I can't off the top of my head. But somebody in a team who gets promoted, so they become the manager of that team.
Right.
Right. What's the first thing they try and do? They're trying to create an image of them as a manager.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which probably means they overcompensate in certain areas.
Yeah.
So now they're projecting an image upwards, which isn't true about what's going on. So there's a risk they're going to get caught out.
Right.
They're projecting an image downwards, which isn't them because people knew them because you used to sit next to me and I know you.
Yes.
And this isn't you. So now I don't quite know how to deal with you because it's inauthentic.
Right.
And it all comes crumbling down for them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's at one end of the spectrum.
Okay.
At the other end of the spectrum, imagine you join a new company, you get a job as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, you probably do want to control the image for a while, and you do want to let people in slowly so you can, get to know them and not overwhelm them.
Sure.
And, we don't go in on day one and go, I'm not very good at this bit.
Yeah.
We go in and try and put effort on.
And you're sort of creating a bit of, and this is probably the wrong terminology, but a bit of mystique around who you are and your persona. A bit of polish. There we go. Yeah.
So I think most of these things, there's a good side because we want to strive to present the best of us and our authentic self. But there's a bad side because for some people, then these things get so far apart that they start to create challenges for them in their life and their workplace.
Right.
Because they're constantly trying to protect the image and protect the version of them that they've created.
Right. Okay.
They're maintaining the lie to your...
Yeah, well, absolutely. So I'm wondering then about sort of, if you like, an implication, how to help somebody who is putting too much effort into this, somebody who feels that this is the way that they need to behave in a place of work. Is this just down to self-awareness and somebody self-correcting? I think
you have to first uncover why are they doing it. If they're doing it because they just think it's the right thing to do, well, you go, well, where does it help you? Where does it not?
Right.
But they might be doing it for reasons of, well, if they might be sitting there going, if you knew the real me, you wouldn't like me.
Right. Okay.
So there might be some self-esteem issues, some imposter syndrome issues. There might be a whole lot of other things that sit behind this image management.
Yeah.
That they're creating a veneer that they think is the only way they can protect themselves.
Right. Okay.
So if that's the case, you can't really tackle the veneer. You've got to tackle the real issue, and the veneer will drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they're just doing it because they just think it's the right thing to do, then it's about calibrating the expectation. For me, it's about going, well, how do we introduce the authentic you into this situation, the best version of the authentic you in this situation?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's easier for you to manage every day. It's going to take less effort.
Yes, a lot less energy.
And it's probably easy for other people because if you show up as you, then you're going to be a bit more consistent and you're going to be a little bit more understandable, and people are going to know who it is. And we know that a really key part of trusting another person is seeing the authentic them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It builds trust and
And then any foibles that you might have are forgiven, you know, because it's sort of like, well, do you know what? Your authentic you has turned up and turns up consistently every day, which means that you're comfortable with the fact that you have certain strengths, but you also have certain weaknesses. And that means that people can, you know, treat you and deal with you on a day-to-day basis in the right way, you know, because they can make allowances for the weaknesses. They can help with the strengths. And, you know, you're also then, you've got the opportunity, should I say, to build on that, because if you're going to be authentic, you know, then actually you have the ability and the opportunity to actually work on the things that are important for you and the team, rather than just keeping up this persona.
That's a really interesting point, because there is one bit of image management where you flip it almost on everything we just said on its head. Mm-hmm. So here's a different scenario for you, and I'm interested in what you think of this. There are some people who work really hard to present themselves as humble, hardworking, down to earth.
Right.
And then they moan because their boss or their boss's boss isn't recognizing the work, and this person over there, they say all the things I've done and they get rewards and I don't get noticed.
Yeah.
But self-promotion is a bad thing.
Right.
Whereas actually surely a bit of image management there to go, do you know, actually promoting yourself in a positive, respectful, realistic way.
Yes.
That might be really good image management.
Yes, no, absolutely.
And sitting in the corner going, I should just be recognised for my hard work.
Yeah.
Actually might be the destructive bit.
Yeah, no, true story. And I think part of that is, you know, and you know, you've managed teams, I've managed teams, is a recognition of people's individual traits and recognizing that, well, how do I best serve the recognition of that achievement for that person with those characteristics? Because they're not likely to want, if you like, recognition amongst their peers as a group. It's likely to be at an individual level that's going to be far more motivating.
Yeah, but also helping them to recognise that actually
they need to put themselves out there a bit.
Yeah, and image management in its own right isn't a terrible thing. We all do it. We all present our best self. You know, at the basic level, most of us get up in the morning and go, if you've got a big meeting, we're going to go, you know, should I wear that suit or this suit? You know, is that shirt ironed? Is it clean? Is it, how do I look my best self?
Yeah.
You know, we don't always succeed, you know, but we all try and do it. We're all trying to present ourselves.
Yeah.
I guess you have to kind of go, if I'm doing none of it, that's not a healthy place to be, because I'm not showing respect to the people around me. I'm not helping them tune into the good bits of me so that I can be as valuable as I can be. If we do too much of it, then we're starting to become inauthentic. So there's a sort of sweet spot from the feel of it, somewhere between, you know, presenting showing my best face and putting a bit of effort into it, and creating something that's not me and a narrative that's not me that I can't maintain.
Well, and I think that brings us full circle back to what the original question was, because actually the key word in all of this is not impression, it's management.
Yes.
Because we're managing that whole thing.
Yeah. And we're taking ownership of the way other people perceive us.
It's a proactive stance. You know, we're not just sort of going, okay, well, there's an impression, because people will always form an impression of another person anyway.
And that's a really interesting way to round this off, because if we kind of go and say, well, all right, maybe I'm not doing enough. How do I do a bit more? Because if I'm doing too much, then it's like, well, how do I pull myself back to my authentic self?
Sure.
But if I'm not doing enough, 4 areas to think about. One is, am I managing my emotional state?
Okay.
You know, am I looking like I'm calm and I'm showing up and I'm attentive?
Right.
Or am I all over the place?
Right.
So I've seen a lot of stuff that call it suppressing emotions, and I don't want to say suppressing, but I can't think of a better word. It's managing.
Managing emotions, controlling emotions, yeah.
Am I aware of the norms of the situation? Am I aware of the expectations?
Okay.
And how much do I choose to conform to them?
Right.
You know, where do I need to challenge them? Do I need to dress differently to everybody else, or could I just be better off going, this is a place where people wear suits and I'm going to wear a suit?
Sure.
And maybe if I've got to be colourful, I'll have the crazy socks because I'm a banker or whatever, you know. Actually noticing other people, you know, one of the best ways of managing the way people perceive us is noticing other people, flattering other people, mentioning they've done good work. I think it gets harder now because I'm always conscious that, you know, what I might think is a flattering comment, other people might think is offensive.
Okay.
That you've got to be careful about how you do it.
Yes.
But nobody hates their work being praised. Nobody hates a good idea being commented on. There are things we can do to recognise and notice other people.
Sure.
And then being consistent in the way we show up.
Right.
So that people can see who we are and know who we are. And I think if we can do those 4 things, you can start to create a really good impression of yourself in the workplace without having being inauthentic and creating this kind of over mystique that you can't maintain.
Sure.
Or burn all your energy trying to maintain the lie.
Next time on The Question Is.
What that means is that our primitive programming that we now sometimes would call System 1 or the chimp or our emotional thinking is still working on this same way. We don't want to be shamed because that has significant consequences for us, which means if you start thinking about that, that can link into a fear of failure.
To find out how Thinking Focus can unlock the potential within your organisation, go to www.thinkingfocus.com, where you'll discover more about the work we do, helping our clients increase productivity and enable change.